Democrats dream of Trump convictions, and that dream keeps getting farther and farther away. All this means, and you heard a little bit of a preview of it, is that there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on the judges. Democrats will blame the judges if Trump doesn't get convicted, like Eileen Cannon, assigned to oversee the federal indictment of Trump's mishandling of classified documents. Trump, you might remember, nominated Cannon to the bench in May of 2020. Here's some of the response.
Judge Eileen Cannon, on the other hand, took almost an entire court day to talk about two motions that many of us would tell you is borderline frivolous, if not frivolous. And so the fact that she's even holding this hearing is a facilitation of the delay, stall, and ignore tactics that we've seen from Trump all along in this case and in his other ones.
All right, so judges aren't supposed to hold hearings. So says MSNBC. Erick Erickson is here, host of the Erick Erickson Show, author of the must-read conservative newsletter in your email inbox around noon every day. Show notes, enjoy it. Thank you, Eric, as always, for being here. Just in the past hour or so, that Florida judge denied one of the motions against Donald Trump to dismiss his case. You think MSNBC is now going to suddenly praise Judge Cannon?
No, I mean, just go back to the Supreme Court unanimous decision to put Donald Trump on the ballot in Colorado, and they're attacking the Supreme Court, including the progressives. There's no humility here on the left, which is part of the problem, that they don't think they can beat him at the polls, so they're trying to find silver bullets, much like Republicans did against Bill Clinton, against Barack Obama, but silver bullets are things of mythology, not actually things in electoral politics.
How is this going to change, right? You're a lawyer in addition to an astute political analyst. At what point are Democrats going to have to realize that we don't have to beat him at the ballot box, we can beat him in the court strategy isn't going to work?
Sometime last year. Look, so here's the reality, and the way it always works for anyone who's ever practiced law, except for apparently the talking heads on MSNBC, is these things take a lot of time. The defendant is entitled to a speedy trial if he wants it, not the state. This defendant doesn't want a speedy trial. He wants to take his time and review the evidence, and he's allowed to get that within reason. All of the judges have done this. And as the cases have gone on, they've started to fall apart, in large part because there was a rush to get it done before the election. And so whether it's the case in Florida or the case in Georgia, there is a broadness and a vagueness to some of the charges that the judges have to resolve. In Georgia, they've thrown out 6 charges against some of the co-defendants because they were so broad. These things don't happen on the time the Democratic National Committee wants. They happen on the time that justice says they need to take, which is a long time.
Yeah, and that's just the way the wheels of justice move quite slowly. I think what's interesting is to look at how these judges are being treated by the media, especially when you look at Judge Cannon and Judge Chutkan. Cannon threw out, I think Cannon was appointed by Trump in May of 2020, and it seems skeptical in some of the hearings. Then you've got Judge Chutkan sided with the defense on a protective order in the Trump election case, rejected Trump's claim of immunity in the 2020 election case, denied Trump's to recuse herself, appointed by Obama in 2013. How is this going to work? Because at the middle of both of these cases is Jack Smith, who's the special counsel and the prosecutor here. How is this going to work when you're going to have a Trump-appointed judge that he may want to have recused, and then you've got a Obama-appointed judge that he certainly doesn't want to have recused?
Look, you can already tell the media treats the case in D.C. much more favorable, largely because of the judge and her rulings. But of course, those keep getting appealed, and so they're attacking the appellate process. Remember, Jack Smith wanted the immunity issue appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, no, we're going to follow the process, go to the Court of Appeals first. And then they decided they would hear it. They got attacked for wanting to hear it now. There's no way for this to work when the media is as invested in indicting and finding Donald Trump guilty as the Democratic partisans. The deck is stacked, with the exception, I might add, of NewsNation. The deck is largely stacked against Donald Trump. Its analysis in CNN and MSNBC, where you have partisan progressives who are the supposed objective legal analysts who are essentially lying to the people on television. Because if you listen to them, go back to the Supreme Court case that was unanimous against Colorado, every single legal expert on CNN and MSNBC said it was a slam dunk case. It turned out to be slam dunk in the opposite direction.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.